Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 25 male, grew up feeling like I was invisible in my own family. My father, David, 52 male, always had a strange favoritism for my cousin, Emma, 24 female. Emma is the daughter of my father's brother, Uncle Paul, 50 male. Emma was brilliant, beautiful, and beloved by everyone, including me. She was the perfect one, excelling in school, winning awards, and seemingly destined for greatness. I didn't resent her for any of that. She was kind and hardworking, but the way my dad treated her compared to me was glaringly obvious and deeply hurtful. My dad was at every one of Emma's school plays, award ceremonies, and milestones. Meanwhile, he barely acknowledged my achievements, often comparing me to Emma in a way that made it clear I wasn't good enough. I never understood why he acted like Emma was his favorite child when she wasn't even his. The moment that truly crushed me came when I was 16. During a family dinner, the topic of college came up, and my dad proudly announced that he'd set up a college fund for Emma. When I asked about my own college fund, his response was cold and dismissive. "You're not as academic as Emma. College might not be the best path for you. Maybe a trade school would be more realistic." My heart sank. It wasn't just that he wasn't investing in my future. It was the way he said it, like I wasn't even worth the effort. My mom, 50 female, tried to defend me, saying, "David, that's not fair." But he just brushed her off. Meanwhile, Emma sat there looking deeply uncomfortable. I could tell she didn't like the way he talked to me, but she didn't know how to address it without causing a scene. That night, I decided I couldn't count on my father for anything. I started working part-time jobs and saving every penny, determined to fund my own education. Fast forward a few years, Emma had just graduated from college, and the family threw a huge dinner to celebrate her success. My parents, Uncle Paul, Aunt Linda, 48 female, Emma, and other relatives gathered for what was supposed to be a joyful occasion. As the dinner wound down, Paul stood up to make a toast. At first, his speech was typical, full of pride and love for Emma. But then his voice trembled, and he said, "Emma, I will always love you as my daughter, but there's something you deserve to know." The room went silent. Paul looked directly at my father, then at his wife, Linda, and said, "David, Linda, it's time the truth came out. Emma deserves to know who her real father is." I thought I'd misheard him. My dad froze, my mom gasped audibly, and Emma looked like the ground had just been ripped out from under her. Paul continued, his voice shaking as he recounted how he had suspected the truth for years. Paul said his suspicions began long ago, mainly because of my father's blatant favoritism toward Emma. He noticed how my dad doted on her in a way that went far beyond what you'd expect from an uncle. Paul never had concrete proof, just a nagging feeling that something wasn't right. For years he buried his doubts, choosing to trust his wife and focus on raising Emma as his own, trying to reason that she's a girl and my father always dreamed of having a girl. That changed at a family wedding about a year ago. Paul said he went outside for air and saw Linda and my dad standing off to the side, away from everyone else. At first, he thought nothing of it, until he saw them kiss. Not a friendly peck on the cheek, but a lingering, intimate kiss that left no room for doubt. Paul didn't confront them right away. Instead, he waited until the next day, when he cornered Linda and demanded the truth. At first, she denied everything, calling him paranoid. But when he told her what he'd seen, her defenses crumbled. She admitted to having an affair with my father, a secret relationship that had started decades ago, long before Emma was born. When Paul pressed further, Linda broke down and confessed that my father was Emma's biological father. She begged Paul not to tell anyone, insisting it would destroy the family. For a while, Paul kept the secret, but it ate away at him, especially as he watched my father continue to act as though Emma was his responsibility while neglecting me. The dinner descended into chaos. My mother ran out of the room in tears, Linda started sobbing, and Emma sat frozen, her face pale and her eyes brimming with tears. My father tried to deny it at first, but Paul wouldn't let him. He told everyone exactly what Linda had confessed, and made it clear he had seen the affair with his own eyes. My dad couldn't deny it any longer. Emma eventually broke down, screaming at both Linda and my father. She kept saying, "How could you do this? How could you hurt and betray my dad like this?" I followed her outside, trying to comfort her, but there was nothing I could say to fix what had just happened. My mother filed for divorce almost immediately after the dinner. She told me she couldn't stay with a man who had not only betrayed her, but his own brother, and had also built an entire secret life behind her back. She cut off all contact with him, and most of the extended family sided with her and Paul, leaving my father and Linda completely isolated. Emma, meanwhile, was devastated. She moved in with Paul and made it clear that she would always see him as her real dad. She couldn't forgive Linda or my father for what they had done, and she went no contact with both of them. I felt for Emma. She had lost the foundation of her identity overnight, and she was mourning the family she thought she had. Despite everything, she and I grew closer. For the first time, we weren't just cousins. We were siblings in the aftermath of a betrayal that had wrecked both our lives. With everyone else cutting him off, my father turned to me. He started calling, leaving long voicemails about how lonely he was and how unfairly he was being treated. When I didn't respond, he showed up at my apartment uninvited. He looked pathetic and desperate. He begged me to listen, saying, "You're my son. You're all I have left." I let him talk, but it was all self-pity and excuses. He claimed he and Linda couldn't help falling in love, and said he'd tried to do the right thing by supporting Emma. When I reminded him of how he had neglected me my entire life, he said, "That's not fair. I did what I could for both of you." That's when I snapped. I told him, "You didn't support Emma because you're a good person. You supported her because you were guilty and hiding the truth. Meanwhile, you treated me like I wasn't good enough. You betrayed Mom, Paul, Emma, and me. I don't owe you anything." A few days later, I got a text from him. "If you're going to turn your back on me like everyone else, don't expect a dime from me when I'm gone. I'll cut you out of my will." I haven't responded. I don't care about his money. Whatever he has left isn't worth compromising my morals or my peace. I'm focusing on the people who truly love and support me. My mom, Paul, and Emma, who has become more like a sister than a cousin to me. Part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh. My father is clearly isolated and desperate, and part of me feels guilty for not offering even a sliver of compassion. But then I think about the years of neglect, the lies, and the pain he's caused. Not just to me, but to everyone around him. I don't think I owe him anything, but I can't help but wonder if I'm wrong. What do you think, Reddit? Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my father the compassion he's asking for? OP's father spent years betraying everyone in his family. OP's mom, Paul, Emma, and even OP. He doesn't get to play the victim now that the truth is out. He's not lonely because everyone's being unfair to him. He's lonely because his own actions drove everyone away. Good on OP for standing his ground, and honestly, props to Paul for how he handled it. Still standing by Emma despite the betrayal. That's a real father right there. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. Your father had decades to be honest and treat you with the respect you deserved as his son. Instead, he hid behind lies, lavished his attention on Emma, and gaslit the entire family. Now he's trying to guilt you because he's facing the consequences of his own actions. Nope. He doesn't deserve compassion. You're not being cruel. You're protecting yourself from someone who's shown time and time again that he only thinks about himself. Not the a-hole. Blood doesn't automatically make someone a father. Paul proved that by staying in Emma's life and continuing to love her as his daughter, even after the truth came out. Your dad, on the other hand, spent years tearing your family apart in secret. He treated you like a second-class citizen while playing the doting uncle to Emma. You owe him nothing. He made his bed, and now he has to lie in it, alone. Not the a-hole. Let's break this down. Your dad had an affair for decades. He lied to everyone. He prioritized his secret daughter over his actual son. He tore apart multiple families. And now he's threatening to cut you out of his will because you won't coddle him? The audacity is off the charts. You're handling this with more grace than I would. Good for you for focusing on the people who actually care about you. Your mom, Paul, and Emma. That's your real family. Let your dad stew in the mess he created. So, back in 2016, my ex-fiancée Fiona and I had just graduated high school and were planning to get married. But then, out of the blue during the summer, she broke up with me, saying she was too young to get married and wanted to see the world. Fair enough, right? Well, that's how I felt, until I recently started talking to Fiona and found out that it was my mom who convinced her to leave me. Why? Because, according to her, my mom thought I was too immature to get married, and that Fiona needed a real man and not a boy. This took me back a bit, because growing up, my mom had always hammered home that I should become a morally upstanding, good, married religious man as soon as possible. So this was a slap in the face. Then Fiona told me that it was my mom who had set her up on a date with her now husband Bruce, who is my mom's work colleague a couple months later, which again hurt. Because, I'll be honest, I didn't recover from the breakup until late 2018. Me and Fiona were together since we met in freshman year, and ever since breaking up, my romantic life hasn't been fulfilling, with girlfriends here and there, but nothing long-term. I asked her why she was telling me this, and Fiona replied that she was now pregnant and was starting a new chapter in her life and wanted to cut loose any attachments to the past. So I brought this up to my mom and asked if she told Fiona to leave me, and she said yes, because she felt that we were too young to get married, especially me, as I was too immature in her eyes, and that Fiona deserved someone who could take care of her in the there and now, which, unlike now, I couldn't do in 2016. It wasn't until 2018 that I moved out of my mom's house when cryptocurrency and trading allowed me to buy a house and be financially independent. And when I asked her about setting Fiona up with Bruce, she said I wasn't supposed to know. She said she didn't want to hurt me, but just wanted me to have many and different experiences. As things stand, I really don't know what to think. I would be heartbroken if I hadn't moved on. I have basically achieved the goals I set to do by 2020, except the wife and kids part. OP's mother was absolutely wrong to do this. I do have to say that I think that Fiona going along with OP's mother's plan, instead of talking to OP about it at the time, shows that Fiona also had some growing up to do. I would keep mother at an arm's length until OP can speak to a therapist to deal with these feelings. My ex-wife and I were married for 9 years. We finalized our divorce in February of 2014. We have 2 children together, our daughter who is 10 and our son who is 7. Our divorce centered around my career. I worked in a profession which was very high paying. However, it required me to work 70 to 80-hour weeks. When I first started working, I would have to work from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and I would have to work Saturdays as well. I eventually made partner in the company in 2010, and I thought things would get better, but it didn't help much at all. I was given more freedom to choose my hours, but I was made to be on call 24/7. I was free to leave to get home early to have dinner with my family, but I was still required to remote in. I got to a point where I hated my job. I was missing out on my children's lives because of it, and the management in the company would make promises, but things never worked out. I talked to my wife about leaving the company and starting something on our own. The idea was to open up a franchise here and there and have something that was our own. I had more than enough money to where if we were to live frugally, I could retire at 35. However, my wife was extremely against it. She told me that our children's futures rested upon me providing for them, when, in reality, we had more than enough to pay for their college educations in full. And she hated the idea of us having to go down in lifestyle. She told me to suck it up, that it is a father's job to provide. We had a lot of conflicts. She didn't understand how taxing the job could be. She worked as a private school teacher, teaching a field she loves, to very agreeable children. She was living her dream. However, I wasn't. And this clash in not being able to understand my perspective really led to our divorce after I left the company. After I left, I did some consulting for small businesses here and there, so I was still able to make some money. But then I found out about the opportunity of buying a small business. It was a small Italian restaurant that was tanking, but I felt that I could definitely fix it up. So I did. I initially put in a good bit of hours, but it wasn't long before the business really took off. And now I have an awesome business that I can share with my family. It doesn't bring in as much as I used to make, but it is still a good amount. And best of all, I can spend time with my family. We have been able to go on vacations together. I've been able to spend more time with my children. Plus, when I am working on my business, it doesn't feel like I am giving up my life to other people. It is my own business. It doesn't feel like work, really. The problem has been really that my ex-wife has realized her mistakes and now wants to get back together. She has seen that after leaving my job, how I have been able to turn my life around, except the economic part. And I think mainly this has to do with the fact that she found out I have a new girlfriend. I think in her mind, she was rooting for my business to fail, and I would regret on how stupid I was for leaving my nice job. But now that things have been going good for me, and I have a new girlfriend, she wants back in my life. I don't want anything to do with her, but I don't want to damage our co-parenting relationship either. Also, I want her to stop asking about my girlfriend. I didn't even tell her or my children that I have one, so I don't even know how she found out about her. She only cares about money, not about OP. She didn't want OP when he was breaking his back working 70+ hours, but now wants OP back when his business is prospering. Yeah, no. That doesn't fly, at all. Especially hearing she told OP to suck it up, it's a man's job to provide. OP can do way better. My girlfriend and I recently talked about getting married. Within this conversation, obviously evolved into talking about engagement rings. To the Google I went, just to see what different kinds of diamonds are out there. To set the scene, I'm a fairly basic living guy that rarely cares to look at or buy nice things. I get to this website that has these huge and super nice looking rings. So I say, "Hey, girlfriend, come check these out." She responds with, "That's cute, but that is moissanite." Talk about opening up a whole new world to me. Man-made diamonds. Being an engineer, I dive into research and what makes them different. The quote I read was, "Besides a slight difference in hardness, the major difference in moissanite and diamond is the price tag, and that diamonds are often slightly flawed due to being naturally created, and moissanite being perfect made." So, in my mind, wow, these are 10 to 20-fold cheaper, so I can buy any size she wanted, and more perfect. That's definitely a better option. Then, a couple days later while talking to her friend, she says, "I want a real diamond, and I definitely get it verified." I heard her say it, but I wasn't directly connected to this conversation. Let me start by saying that I know my girlfriend likes nicer things than I do, but I generally don't mind buying more expensive things for her on special occasions, like a purse or car or something of utility. Especially with our jobs requiring meeting with business partners. Some things I think add value to our lives. Casually over the next few weeks, I started bringing up the idea of alternative stones and how I could use the extra money towards a house, etc. She shot these ideas down so firmly. She said that diamonds is what she wants because they are forever, expensive, and what engagement rings should be made of. Honestly, her comments make me want to end the relationship immediately. I make 6 figures a year, so it's not really about the cost of the diamonds. To me, I have worked hard to get where I am, and I live frugally so I can easily provide for my family down the road and meet financial goals. To have her demand a diamond only because of the price tag makes me rethink this whole relationship. Am I crazy to think that her demand is a big red flag? Is this an indication of the demands to come in terms of irresponsible spending? Some background. I am financially more well off than her due to my frugality, considering she has been working longer than I have. Neither of us received any forms of help or funds from our parents, meaning we started in the same place out of college. So, I get not wanting to spend a ton of money on an engagement ring. I would not do that personally. But at the same time, I think it's unfair to say that other luxury purchases add value to your life and then turn around and say that a diamond engagement ring absolutely does not. Value is subjective, and your fiancé values it. Maybe the value for her is purely sentimental. Maybe it's symbolic. Maybe she was raised in a society that teaches women that having a nice purse doesn't mean crap without a big expensive rock on your hand. Hint, she was. You went straight from, "I love this woman enough to marry her," to, "What other crazy demands will this person make?" You should probably have several extensive conversations about your financial goals, ASAP. It may be that your values just aren't compatible, but you should find out by talking to her, not by making assumptions. A little over 3 months ago, my 22 male sister, 26 female, moved back home after she broke up with her fiancé. I was thrilled to find out about this because he was extremely hated by everyone in our family, as well as her friends, because he was manipulative, mentally her, cheated on her, and was extremely disrespectful towards all of us. I was never told that she was planning on bringing home 3 cats as they were initially her fiancés, but I didn't make a big deal out of it because even though I really don't like cats, I was happy to have her back home and happy. My dad, 54 male, charges me rent, which gets put into a savings account for when I'm ready to put a down payment on a house. On the other hand, my sister doesn't get charged rent because she is the type of person to make $1 and spend $2, so she's in debt for over $10,000. She'll complain about her debt, but always come home with junk food, takeout, and constantly order useless things on Amazon. I've tried to sit down with her and help her create a budget to start paying off her debt, but she refuses to do so as it's her problem, not mine, so I stayed out of it. The first night she stayed, one of her cats went into my room and broke my bong, which cost me $200. She cleaned up the mess and apologized, which was fine for me. It's just a bong. It's not worth starting an argument over it. Now, this is just the beginning of her cats destroying my things. For about a year, I lived with a friend and bought this really nice couch which cost me a little over $800 that I brought back home once I moved back in. Well, her cats immediately ruined it. I'd seriously be surprised if I can get $200 for it now. She laughed it off and said, "Well, at least they're cute." I got mad and told her she's going to pay me back for some of that. She got upset and told me I was an a-hole for telling her that. My dad heard us arguing, so I told him what happened. So he told me to drop it, and we'd take care of it later. 2 months later, still nothing. I've decided to forget about it. About a year ago, our office closed due to pandemic, and I've been working from home ever since. They've had this plant in the office for well over 5 years, and I offered to take care of it while the office was closed. Well, guess what? Her cats ruined it. We didn't have a place in the house where it could get the appropriate sunlight without the cats having access to it. I constantly was yelling at them to stop playing with the plant, but she thought it was funny and cute. She'd post and send me pictures and videos on her Snapchat story of them playing in the plant, eating it, etc. The plant is now ruined, and once again, she again doesn't care. This is the final straw. I love gaming and computers and have built my own, which cost me a little over $2,500, and I've spent hours working on it as it was custom water-cooled. While I was gone at the gym, one of her cats knocked over my computer, and literally every single component in my computer is broken due to water damage. I absolutely lost my stuff. I told her she would pay me back for every single penny I spent on that computer, and she had to lock her cats in her room from now on. She started crying, telling me I was an awful brother for saying that, knowing she's in debt and still depressed from her breakup. I got mad and told her that's not my problem. She is extremely irresponsible with her money and made countless stupid decisions. It was one of her cats. They are her responsibility, and I'm not letting this one slide anymore. I'm currently using this crappy laptop from work, which barely works and is from 2012. My dad offered to buy me one, but I told him no, it's not his fault, and he shouldn't have to spend any of his money. Her cats have done nothing but ruin things around the house, and I'm done with her thinking it's funny because they're cute. She took on the responsibility of having cats, and she's an adult, so it's time for her to face the consequences. I told her that every paycheck she gets, I'm getting $300 from until I get my money back, which she thinks is completely unfair because she's trying to pay off her debt. I told her instead of buying junk food and takeout, and she can start doing groceries like an adult and being frugal. She got paid today, so I texted her to send me the money. But she left me on read and decided to stay at her friend's place tonight. I'm not sure what to do at this point. I do not plan on apologizing to my sister for the things I said. I think I'm the one who deserves an apology. I'm at the point where I'm going to build a new computer, but have to buy the pieces I had before. It's going to cost me significantly more due to them being sold out everywhere. I don't want my dad's money because none of this is his fault, and even though he can afford it, It's not fair to him. Edit. The couch was in the basement, which doesn't have a door. My computer is also in the living room, as I don't have the space in my room. Take the money from your dad. It's his to give, and he is making the choice to feed her bad behavior. It's not your job to make her a better person. Also, speak to your dad directly about boundaries. You are paying rent, so you should have an expected level of safety for you and your stuff. Also, consider renter's insurance. Update. So, my family sat down and discussed the entire situation. My dad will be buying me a new computer, and my sister will be making the payments to him. If she misses one of the payments, she'll be given a warning, and if she continues, she's going to be getting kicked out. He's going to attempt to regulate her finances by being more frugal, meal prepping, etc. But if she refuses to listen, again, warning, and then the boot. I will be moving into the basement and purchasing a door for it. No cats will be allowed. If for whatever reason I leave the door open and one of the cats ruins something, that's on me. I don't fully agree with this decision, as they are her cats, meaning they are her responsibility. However, if this decision will resolve all of this tension, I'm okay with it.